Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday. Tuesday? Are we Tuesday? I think we're Tuesday. So Darryl has gone off with a couple of the kids for Sonnet's appointment in Toowoomba. And I'm getting a much later start than I wanted. It's already 10:30, but it's still only 13 degrees out here. And I know to a lot of people that is not cold at all. But for us, it's pretty chilly. And the dogs are driving me nuts at the moment. I'm not sure what is roaming around, but something is, and they keep on going off. And it is just frustrating. So anyway, so I'm actually going to make myself another coffee first before I get started. And then I'm going to get started on the stuff for the jars of soup, I think. So I do a really basic chicken soup. I am going to quickly caramelize some onions while I dice up everything else. And I just raw pack, dice the onions up and cook them because they're nicer caramelized. So I'll probably do the onions and some garlic caramelized in a Dutch oven cast iron pot while I dice up carrots and potatoes, and that's sort of it. We just do really, really simple carrots, potatoes, and the really nice chicken stock that I made, and some chicken and a bit of salt and pepper, that sort of thing. And then it can be seasoned however you want when you pull it out. Sometimes I do less veggies, sometimes I do more, sometimes I do plain stock so that we can use it in whichever way we want. So I'll assess that as I go. So I ended up with about 10 litres of chicken stock. So there's that. I was just thinking about that. I might quickly whip up a batch of brioche dough for little buns for dinner for tonight. I'm not real sure what we're having. Maybe we'll just have bolognese and buns for dinner tonight, like garlic bread buns. Something nice and simple because I'm going to be using the kitchen for most of the day. There's a few things I'd really, really like to get done today. We will see how that goes because I've been struggling to get stuff done, but I did finish that last chapter of the D&D job that I needed to be done. So that is done. Sorry, my camera's pointing a little bit funny, isn't it? So that is done. And the kids have a couple of school lessons today. We need to do a spelling test a bit later, which is fine. I'll sit them down to do that with them for half an hour at some point. But mostly they're pretty self-sufficient for today, the three that are left home. So we'll see. Let's get moving. So first up, I'm going to make coffee and I'm going to pull a whole bunch of onions out. All right. I was going to do that dough first, wasn't I? Which is going to take a while to proof. So I should mix that up. I've got half a dozen onions. Say we get a dozen jars, half an onion each sort of thing. But I'm going to do that dough first because the fire is on inside, but it's still going to take a while to proof. Seeing as I'm boiling the kettle for coffee, I've just pulled it off before it's boiling because we don't want it boiling to put the water in for the dough, and we're going to add coconut cream from the fridge, so it'll bring it down just a little bit, and there should still be plenty of water in here for coffee for me. All right, so we've got 720 mils of warm water. It's not even that warm, it's fine though. 180 coconut cream, so we're bringing this up to 900. Half a tin of coconut cream left from something I used half a tin of, to 900. Then we're going to add our yeast. We're going to be generous with the yeast, 30 grams of yeast, because the temperatures, we're going to do 100 odd grams of 100 to 150 grams of sugar, again, which will help with the yeast in this temperature. We want some oil. Need a new olive oil opener, and as you can see, the temperatures have been low enough that it's semi-solid, but I should be able to just squeeze some out. So we want 150, what are we looking at? 150 grams of oil. So semi-solid olive oil. A bit of salt. There's not a lot in my salt container. Don't I every single time I got to use salt on camera? So we want about 20 grams of salt in there. And then we just want flour, which we want 1250 to 1300 grams of flour, which I should get out of the bottom of this barrel so I don't have to open another bag right this second. And then I'm just going to put this on the KitchenAid and it will go for a good 5-10 minutes because it's a brioche dough. And then while that's kneading, I'll finish making my coffee because the kettle should boil. All right, mix is going, and so I'm just going to start. I'm waiting for my coffee to pour through. I'm going to start on the onions as I go. I am just going to dice them thin because I'm going to caramelize them. If I was going to, I'm going to slice them thin, sorry. If I was going to use them as in the soup raw, like if I was going to raw pack the onions, I'd dice them up really nice and small, but because I'm going to caramelize them, they're going to shrink anyway, and so I'm just going to slice them really nice and thin. Now I could potentially pull the slicer attachment out on the Thermomix actually. I just find sometimes for a fairly small batch it's a lot of effort to pull like a mandolin or a grater or a slicer or something out. My knife skills are just good enough that sometimes it's just easier to sit here and do this. I know, I don't know. And my hands are okay at the moment because it's the beginning of the day, so I'm not having any problems with them cramping or refusing to work. Though I suppose I can't use the slicing attachment for things like the potatoes and carrots, which I like to do, so maybe I should say, you know, it's one of those things. A lot of effort to pull out when I can just, like that was one onion done in a minute. So anyway, I think I'm just going to slice them today. But yes, I'm just slice them into rounds like that, and I'm going to put them in the pan with a bit of ghee. Not too much ghee because we're going to be canning them, but enough to keep them sweated off. A little bit of salt and maybe just a teaspoon of sugar just to push that caramelization nice and quick, because I'm not worried about them being super soft because they're going to cook further in the jars anyway, but I just want that, you know, that caramelization of them. The usual, we're multitasking, sometimes well, sometimes not so well. The dough is done, so my fairly sloppy brioche dough, like always. I have found that it works the best to keep it sloppy. They just end up this chewy, buttery texture. It's really nice. So it's worth the effort of dealing with this slightly sloppy dough for the end result. So I'm just going to spray this a little bit and scrape it in to my Cambro container. These containers, most of my Cambro containers were gifted to me by Susan via Amazon, and they are amazing. So if anyone's looking for good quality Tupperware style containers in different sizes, I highly recommend the Cambro containers. Daryl and I have been talking about getting the new freezer and where we're going to put it and things like that, and part of what I need to do is go through all of my Tupperware and just get rid of the stuff that I don't use, the stuff that I've accumulated that is no name brand that doesn't get used, and eventually replace it all with the same sort of style stuff. Those veggie containers that I love from Kmart, and Tupperware no longer exists here, but Kmart and stuff, Cambro containers, all those sorts of things, and get rid of the stuff that we just have no use for and keeps on getting missed, no lids, no bottoms, whatever. So Cambro containers is something that I will definitely be replacing a lot of my stuff with. Anyway, I'm going to put this inside on one of the kids' desks near the fireplace. Half a dozen big elephant garlic cloves, and I'm just going to slice these up and put them in with the onions once the onions are almost where I want them. Nothing fancy, and not overly small. We're just going to mix it through the onions, and then when I put the onions in the jars, they'll have the garlic through it, sort of thing. Just for added flavour. Again, having it slightly toasted is always nice when you're doing soups and stuff. Having the garlic and the onion slightly toasted is always good, so I'm just going to do that. I pulled out carrots. I'm going to dice them up. Now, I do sometimes peel my carrots when going in soup because of just if it's sitting for any span of time before it gets covered in liquid, the skins oxidize and they go a bit black. I think the USDA guidelines are that all root vegetables should be peeled. I'm not overly concerned about that because these are store-bought, washed. I'm sure they're bleached before they're, given to me, but I would normally peel them. I just have to find a peeler. I do not peel my potatoes though. I only buy washed potatoes, and I like potatoes with the skin on them, and I feel like you just lose too much potato when you're trying to peel them, so I don't peel my potatoes. But I probably will try and find a peeler for the carrots, get that done next, and then I'll get them diced up as well. And then we're at least starting to get stuff completed. There's just a lot going on in my head of what I'd like to get done today. How much of that I actually manage, we will see. So I'm just going to, I've got the onions here, they're pretty good. So I'm going to add the garlic for a little bit, get that mixed through as well. And then this will be portioned into the jars appropriately. So I'll get the potatoes and the carrots done, and then I'll get the chicken cut up as well. So I'll just let that cook for a couple of minutes and soften and brown that garlic slightly, and then that'll be done. I like my carrot dices to be fairly small. This is for versatility of end result, basically. So what I tend to do is I tend to halve them and then cut them into 3 or 4 strips like that, and then halve them and then take the little dices off. I find that this is a good size for just a lot of things. Like for a stew, I'd want them bigger. Like, you know, if you're having it as a stew, but this, and when I do beef, I definitely have the chunks bigger. But for a chicken soup, normally there is some sort of pasta added, or you know, that noodles, something is done with it. It's not just it's not served just as is, and so I find having the carrot in smaller pieces is beneficial. So that's what I'm doing, putting these into those smaller chunks for the soup. So I did peel them, just used a hand peeler to do it. Bit of a rough job. There still might end up being a little bit of black streaking occasionally from the oxidization if there's any skin left behind, but it won't be anything that is an issue. So just going to finish these up, and then I will pull the potatoes out, and then I'll have to find my jars and just keep going. Same thing with the potatoes. I cut any significant marks off the skin. Some of these have a little bit of greening, so I cut that greening off as well. And then I just cut them into strips like that, half again, and into little cubes. Again, it's a soup, not a stew, so I'm keeping the pieces fairly small for versatility purposes. So I just check them over, take any significant marks off the skin that might impact quality, and then just slice into thick slices and small chunks. So getting that done as well. Now with the potatoes, I did just cover them with water and a bit of lemon juice. That's just to stop them browning while it takes me time to get other stuff done. I suppose theoretically if I didn't peel the carrots I could do similar. I don't know how well it works though with carrots. I know it works with potatoes. So for the moment, that's that. So the onions and the garlic are done, carrots, potatoes. Now I'm going to grab my chicken out and cut that up. And then we'll start collating the jars. I would normally use thighs or something in the way of chicken for canning soups, but we were given these tenderloins, and I was going to turn them into like satay chicken or something for Darryl, but there's these 3 packs. I used 3 of them the other night, and there's another 6 packs, and they're half a kilo-ish each, and I stuck them straight in the fridge, so they need to be used before I go. And I think I'm just going to use some of them for this because it's nice and easy. The chicken will break down a little bit like minced chicken almost in the canning process because it's such a tender cut. It doesn't have much fat in it, but my stock has plenty of fat in it. So let's have a look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I don't want to cut it too small because it does break up a lot in the canning process because it's tenderloins. So I might just chop them into 3 chunks. And if we're doing, say, the plan is to try and get about 12 jars out of this. So what have we got here? 1.5 kilos. That's only just over 100 grams. So I will definitely do at least, say, 3 more of these. 3 kilos worth. I'll put them in a bowl and then I'll get my jars out and I'll make an assessment. I think I need to find a container to put this in. All right, so yeah, I'll cut the 3 kilos up into chunks, I'll grab the jars, and then I'll make a call onto how much I need added. We do, of course, have all the rotisserie chicken meat in the freezer as well. So like if I was heating something up and I just wanted to bump the chicken content up in it, I could always just add that. And I do sometimes just can chicken on its own and then all the soup bases on its own. And then again, you can just grab a jar of chicken and a jar of vegetable base and things like that. So, but these need to be used before I go. So we'll do this 3 kilos. I'll grab my jars. I'll bring it back once I've got my jars and everything set up and this cleaned up a little bit. All right, so I've got a dozen quart jars. I've washed them all in warm soapy water. I've inspected the rims. If you have to check the rims of your jars because if there's any damage then they won't seal properly, but this one actually has a crack. It's not on the spot that would seal, but in that edge bit there, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's got a big crack in the rim of it. So that one will not be used for canning anymore. But so I've inspected the rims of them all. I've given them all a wash in warm soapy water and a clean. So we've got a dozen quart jars. Now, I do regularly can my soups in the Fowler's 36s, which are 1.2 litres rather than the litre. But some of the plans for this soup is for lunches for the kids to be able to just warm up with whatever bread I've made. And I think a litre is a better ratio for them. I even considered doing some pint jars. So we'll see how this goes and I might do some pint jars as well. For the moment, I've got a dozen jars. This is what I want to start with. So what I'm going to do first up is I'm going to split this onion and garlic mix between the 12 jars. I'm not sure exactly how much is going to go in there. I should get a funnel. Let's just have a look. So what if we try, I feel like that won't stretch to 12 jars, a whole scoop. We can always pull some out. So we've got a scoop here. I definitely think that it probably needs to be half that. I don't know where my other scoop is. So we do half a scoop per jar, and that ended up being about half an onion and half a big elephant garlic clove if it goes between 12 jars. That was the plan anyway. So we can do sort of a 1/8 of a cup, I suppose, of the onion garlic mix. First two have a bit more than that, but that is fine. I'm not going to go fishing it out when I've got enough to just get all the jars to have at least half a scoop. Some have a little bit more, but we're pressure canning this so the ratios aren't as important. Alrighty, so we've done that. Okay, so we've got onion and garlic in each of these jars. I might do the chicken next because we want that to be somewhat even in all. My SD card was full because I haven't had a chance to delete stuff of it lately. So I'm going to split this up and we're going to see how far this goes first. So it was 3 kilos. We've got 12 jars, which is under 300 grams per jar. So I don't really want to stretch it any further than 12 jars. So we're just going to see where this lends itself to. This will obviously shrink in the canning process as well. So the USDA or whatever it's called, I think it's USDA. I keep on saying USDA and I hope that's right. Guidelines for DIY soup is that you're only supposed to fill half the jar with solids and the rest with liquids. Now, feel free to follow the rules. I'm not going to hold it against you if you do. But I find it really strange. You can do entire jars of chicken, you can do entire jars of carrot, you can do entire jars of onion, you can do entire jars of potato, and yet when you mix them together, you can only do half. It's a bit of an odd thing for me. So we definitely do not follow that. We fill our jars, we pack them nice and tight because the chicken's going to shrink. So if I don't pack them nice and full, we end up with a whole lot of liquid and not much in the way of solids. So we look at what we've got here. That's the 3 kilos across those jars. And actually it's not a bad sort of a ratio of chicken to the jars. Now let me give my hands a wash. Now we're going to go in with veg. So maybe I'll use my scoop that I've got here and go like 2 scoops of carrot per jar, and then top them up with potato. And I might have gone over on the veggies I need, but we can always can more. Even if I don't have more chicken stock, I can can it with water and powdered bouillon. Like it's not that big a deal. It's just nice to do it with homemade stock. That actually ended up quite well. All those carrots between them. So I think there was 8 carrots. I think I planned on just over half a carrot per jar. So I'm pretty happy with that. Potato wise. So again, we're just going to top the jars up now because other than, I don't, like, so this has got a little bit of potato, a little bit of lemon water on it, which isn't an issue. And I'm just going to bring them up to the rims and then I'll grab my packing stick and have a look. So it's 2 sort of handfuls of potato, probably the same as a scoop, except that we've got water in here, so I'm not using a solid scoop. Some of them are a bit lower in some of the ingredients than others and need a little bit extra potato. As I said, I'm not overly concerned, and we're pressure canning it, so the ratios really aren't that big a deal. So considering I was guessing on all of those ratios, I think I did pretty well because like some of the jars are a little lower on, I could cut up another potato or 2. And I might just cut up one small one because we do have a couple that are quite a bit lower than the others. So I might just cut up one small one to top up some of these jars. And then I'm going to grab my stock out and we're going to see how we went with quantities of that as well. So let me grab a potato first. All right, so everything is cold. The stock is cold, the chicken's cold, the veggies cold, and everything else. So we're staying with that process, that thing. So what I'm going to do is bring the stock over towards the jar over towards the stock and pour it in from there. All right, and then we're just going to keep on doing that. Just like that. Each jar topped up with the stock, and then I will debubble and we'll assess liquid levels and go from there. It's pretty, isn't it? This stock is such a rich colour. All right, all 12 jars are full. I'm just going to debubble them, make sure the liquid levels are appropriate. And then I'm going to grab some vinegar and I'll clean the rims of the jars before we put lids on them. Now, you could have boiled the stock before adding it to the jars. A lot of people would have boiled the stock again before adding it to the jars. I just don't find it particularly necessary. If I was hot packing all the other stuff in the jars, maybe, but because everything else that I was putting in the jars is cold, it just makes sense to me to leave everything cold. So I'm pretty happy with the levels on those. I top up very slightly a couple of the jars, and then I'll sort out the lids. All right, so jars are good for how I want them. I've got a clean cloth with some vinegar, white vinegar on it, that I'm just going to make sure that the edges of the very top rims are free of any debris or fat from the stock. And I'm just going to place these on. These lids are fresh out of a brand new box. Some people still prefer to heat their lids before using them, but Ball does say that it is no longer required. And then we're just going to, so I don't knock these ones off, we're just going to place rings fingertip tight on these jars. Just like that. So all 12 jars have the rims clean lids on them. Now, I believe between my two canners I can fit 15 jars, so I'm going to do cold canners, cold jars, and all the rest of it. So I'm going to get both my canners set up and see if I can fit those last 3 jars, and I will do them just straight stock. Now, I didn't add any salt, pepper, any seasonings or whatsoever into the chicken soup, and that's because I prefer to do it once we empty it out, because I just don't know what I'll use it for. So I would prefer to have it as a base flavor, and then can be used for chicken noodle soup, can be used for whatever. So sometimes I will heat up like a jar of this and then a jar of just straight stock, and we've got broth to put noodles in or whatever else. So I didn't season them. I like to leave them just unseasoned until we're ready to serve them. So I'm going to go ahead and get these 12 in the canner, and then I'll come back. Now, chicken stock only takes 25 minutes to can, and the soup with chicken in it takes 90. So this is completely overkill for canning stock, but I really detest running a canner not full. So I'm going to do it anyway, even though it's a bit of overkill, because I have this stock left, but I still have the other container, which I will probably use at dinner time tonight. It needs a little bit of a strain. Make more work for myself, and maybe instead of just do bolognese, do lasagna soup, because we have all those eggs that need using. So I could make some pasta, which would be a good way of using up some of it. Now, I don't skim the fat off my stock. Again, you're supposed to skim the fat off your stock. I leave a generous headspace. I bring the temperature up nice and slowly. I just don't see the point in stock without fat, because the fat is half the flavor of the stock. So I don't. I do try and split it evenly. These 3 have probably got a bit more fat in them than I would normally have in a canning jar, because I've just had to use the top off a different container, but I tried to go under the fat layer to grab that. So I'm going to add these 3 jars to the canner as well. There we go. So the buffalo canner has the 8 jars in it, and the pesto has the 7 jars in it. I possibly could shuffle this and fit another jar in there, but I'm not going to. So I'm just going to leave it at the 8. and get these both going. And again, both canners are going to run for 90 minutes. All right, both of them are started. As I said, we take them up nice and slow. So they're cold canners, so we start the temperature really low and we bring it up really nice and slowly. It helps with any siphoning issues and anything like that. In the meantime, I'm going to put my camera on charge and clean up all of this off the bench and decide I probably need to, those rolls probably need to be shaped. So that's probably the next step. And then I will move on to decide what I'm going to do next. So yes, I'm going to put this on charge while I'm watching the canners clean up. All right, dough, which is well and truly proofed. Now I had to charge the battery handle for the camera, which means that it's not sitting on its tripod, which means that it might go toppling. I need to 3D print myself something to use as a secondary tripod, because the tripod for the bottom of the DJI Pocket Osmo, which is what I'm using, screws into, it's got a 3/4 thread that goes into the bottom of the battery handle, but it doesn't go into it when it doesn't have the battery handle attached. And I keep running out of battery, and I can charge the battery handle separate. Anyway, all just too hard. So dough is well and truly proofed though. And I've just realized I haven't eaten yet today, though I do have coffee. So I really need to get these shaped and then figure out some lunch or something, maybe. I think there might be green curry still left from the other night. I'm not sure, but we're gonna get this moving first. So this dough is pretty sticky. I'm just gonna pull a chunk of it out to, actually, it feels right. It's a little bit sticky, but it's not overly so. And considering it's been in near the fire, it's not actually that warm to the touch, because sometimes when you proof it in a slightly warmer environment, it loses some of its integrity because it gets a bit too warm. But I don't think it has. It's feeling pretty good, actually. I've made a mess of pulling it out because I wasn't going to pull it all out. I've got dough all up my jumper sleeve. This jumper needs a wash. I put it on this morning because I wear it for a few days, obviously, because they're jumpers. They're not the easiest things to get dry out here, and I wear layers underneath it, so it's not in direct contact with my skin. But I did notice when I put it on this morning that I could smell chicken stock. So, and now it's got dough all up the sleeve, so it definitely needs a wash. This will go in the wash tonight. All right, the jumpers are one of those things, just because I was mentioning it, that you don't want to have too many of them because they take up too much room. But you still need a couple of, because when they're washed, sometimes it takes a few days for them to get completely dry again. And anyway, I have the pale blue one of this as well, so I should have just worn that one today. Now we're going to do these rolls at about the 50 gram mark, because that worked really well the other day. So I'm going to grab a baking tray to lay them out on. Now this is a full batch, not a half batch, so I'll probably need 2 of these, but that's fine. My baking paper box got wet, and so the dispensary thing's all falling apart. Something else I should try 3D printing. A dispenser for my baking paper. All right, got that. Now, with the new Thermomix on the bench, I've lost even more space. I really need to get second bench space set up. I need some semolina, and I'm just going to use that on the base of the tray. This is mostly so that if I place something and I need to move it, I can, to be honest. So, yes, we're going to do 50 gram pieces. Let me just, see. I knew I'd drop you at some point. So, all right, you see what I'm doing. That's the main thing. So we're just going to take 50 odd gram pieces. And bring them into balls like normal. So all I'm doing is I'm creating the skin on the outside where the flour is, pinching everything together underneath, and then if I need a bit more flour, creating this nice little ball that seals up the bottom because it's rotating across my hand like that. And then we have the 50-gram dough ball. I just put a little bit of flour to create that surface that's less sticky while I pinch all the sticky bits in. A little bit more flour if needed. This is a very wet dough, so adding that bit of dough, that flour isn't an issue. If you've got a drier dough, you don't want to add too much flour because then you're making the dough even drier. So, but in such a wet dough, adding that little bit of flour is not an issue. So there we go. And I'm just going to keep going. So 50 odd grams dipped in flour. Bring the sticky side to meet itself so that the floury bits on the outside dip and turn into a ball. A bit more flour if needed. Just like that. Keep going, I'll bring you back. All right, tray in a bit out of that, and I'm just going to let these puff up. I might throw them in the oven with the pilot light on for 15 minutes just to proof a little bit, and then we'll egg wash them and get them going. I've got both canners running, so it's a bit loud. So I've got the buns proofed, a little bit of an egg wash, a little bit of sesame seeds. I'm throwing these in the oven, and then I'm going to move on to something else. All right, next thing I've decided to do is some pasta dough, because if I'm making lasagna soup, then we want pasta. So I'm going to crack 4 eggs into here, because I don't always crack our eggs into a bowl before they go into ingredients because of their eggs from our chickens. So I got 4 eggs. All right, so I'm going to use my Thermomix, which again, as I said, I'm running out of space here. All right, I'm going to use my TM6 because I'm going to use the TM7 for something else later. So I've got this. All right, I'm going to use the TM6 because I'm going to use the TM7 for something else afterwards that I want to try out. And we're just going to make a batch of pasta. I regularly make sourdough pasta, but I'd have to use my starter and then feed it, and I'm going away for 4 days, and timing just is not working for me. So all I'm going to do is throw everything into the Thermomix. I might probably do 500 grams of flour, so I might actually do 5 eggs. 5 eggs, 500 grams of flour. I'm going to put a generous couple of pinches of salt, and I'm going to put a little drizzle of olive oil as well. So I've got to grab flour, but 5 eggs, and we'll go tablespoon, 30 odd grams of olive oil. Might need just a touch more, we will see, and plain flour. All right, and I'm just going to bring that together. Speed 5, and we will see if we need a bit more liquid in that one. Yeah, not quite, it's a bit dry, which happens. So what I might do is add an extra 30 grams of olive oil, another 10 seconds on 5. And it looks pretty good. Might be, could possibly do with just I might do a tiny drizzle of cold water because it's just not quite where I want it. About 2 teaspoons worth. My SD card filled up again because I still haven't done anything about that. Just another 5 seconds to incorporate that and we should be good. Pasta is around about 1 egg per 100 grams of flour, but it really depends on the size of your eggs. And because I'm using eggs from my chickens, they all vary. And with the amount that I've added extra there, I probably could have just put an extra egg in there. It looks pretty good. It's holding together. It's not crumbling. So I think we're all right. So what I'll do is I'll bring this all together on the board. And then I will put it aside covered to hydrate. So even though it feels it's just slightly a bit dry at the moment, the flour will hydrate with resting. So I will just bring it all together. It's a bit like pastry. The resting time makes a difference to the end result. So just like that. And now I'm just going to put it aside in a Ziploc bag or covered and rest it for at least half an hour, but probably longer for today. All right, next thing I'm going to do, I do need to make some lemon chung, and I'm going to try and get to that today. But what I'm going to test out is the butterfly and stuff on the new TM7. I like to make a dairy-free lemon curd. I turn it into a cake or just on anything. I love lemon curd. I can't find my juicer. The kids used it last, and I'm not looking real hard because I'm not juicing a whole lot of lemons, but I can't even find my reamer, which is annoying me because squeezing lemons is not my forte with my hands. So we will just see how we go. All right, so I'm just going to go on manual mode and grab the scales up. And first up, I'm going to add some sugar to the bowl to grind up. Now, I'm going to use coconut sugar because I think that that will be really, really nice, actually. And we're going to add, I'm going to do a 6-egg batch, I think, because I have lots of eggs to use up. So, because of that, let's tear these scales. I know they hate my bench. All right, and we're going to do 180 grams. All right, 180 grams of coconut sugar, and I'm just going to grind that up into a powdered sugar type consistency to begin with. So, lid on, and we will go up to 10, hit play. You probably couldn't see that, but you can see all the dust coming out of the Thermomix. So all that is the sugar that's powdered. All right, so we'll just let that settle for a minute. Now we're going to do, we want sort of 90 to 100 grams of lemon juice. So let's see how much I can manage to get out hand squeezing. You should get around about 30 grams per lemon, a decent sized lemon, but that's using a juicer or a reamer, and I'm not, so. All right, so we'll take the lid off. This is our powdered coconut sugar. I'll hit the scales again, and we'll see, let them settle. Oh, look at that, that was 50 grams. So I did better than I thought. All right, so we've got three lemons worth of juice there, and I think we end up with about 120 grams. We will see. All right, we're going to put 6 eggs in. All right, 6 eggs in. And then we need coconut oil. You could use butter, but we use coconut oil because we go dairy free. Now, the main difference I find here between butter-based lemon curd and coconut oil-based is that the lemon is actually probably brighter. It's probably tangier and brighter because the coconut oil doesn't disguise it as much as butter does, doesn't create as much creaminess and that sort of thing. So what we need to do is we need, and my coconut oil of course is super hard. I'm going to try it on the scales and then have a look on there, see, because this is sort of needs to be right. So we're going to go for about 240 grams of coconut oil. You could use ghee here too, butter, ghee, whatever, but I like it with coconut oil, and so we're sticking with that. So we want around about 240 grams of coconut oil. I haven't had lemon curd with real butter in a long time because I've been making dairy-free stuff for the kids for so long now, that I really should make myself a small batch with butter, just out of, you know, curiosity. But 240 grams, and the scales are saying 240, so I think I've got them in a good spot at the moment. All right, now I need my butterfly, and I'm just using my TM6 one because my TM7 one is inside somewhere with the aroma and stuff, which I haven't used yet. I'm going to put that on. All right, and then we'll just cook it. I should scrape down that sugar that went up the side probably, come to think of it. Yeah, that's all right. So not single, we're doing a 6-egg batch. I'm going to say 10 minutes and we will see. 10 minutes, 80. 10 minutes at 80 on speed 3. And I'll hit play. And let's see what it does. Now that coconut oil was quite hard. I probably should have heated it up a little bit. All right, the other thing I'm going to do is salted egg yolks. Okay, so first up, you salt the egg yolks and you cure them in the salt for up to 7 days. There is an option after that to just dry them in the fridge or in the oven. I believe that the guidelines on it require it in the oven. I normally just do it in the fridge, but we'll see how I feel. So all I'm going to do is create divots. We might see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 little divots in our salt. This is just table salt. You can reuse this afterwards. You just need to cook it in the oven for a while to make sure you kill off any potential contaminants, all right? And then we're going to grab egg yolks. So I've got the freshest eggs that we've pulled from the chooks here. And my goal is going to be to grab the yolks out of the eggs, and we'll keep the whites. I don't know what I'm going to do with the whites. I might end up freezing them because I don't think I've got time to do anything with them at the moment. So I'm just going to use my hands. They're washed and clean. And I'm just going to, you want the yolks without any white, if possible at all. It has a little bit of a spot on it. I might put that one aside. Nothing wrong with it, but at the same time, I sit there and I go, if we're going to do this, we want the most pristine ones we can. So, all the whites off it, as much as possible, so it's just yolk and placed in the little divot. That's all we're going to do. We're going to do it for 8 eggs. Possibly could have put the divots a little bit smaller and put them a bit closer together, but it's all right. Still had a bit of white stuck to it, so I've just pulled that off. My timer's gone off on the curd. We will check that in a sec. Now we're going to gently nudge the salt back into the little divot. I think I could have easily fit more in here, couldn't I? Which is tempting considering the amount of salt we're using. Could definitely fit one there. All right, there we go. We got 14, I think. I'm happy with that. I could have fit more in there if I had have space that I could probably still fit, but it's fine. All right, so next what we need to do is we need to sprinkle salt over the top as well. So all we're going to do is gently, very gently cover the tops of the egg yolks as well. All right, so it doesn't take long for these to form a skin on them, so you can put a bit more, like rearrange the salt a little bit if you need to, but they just need to be covered. And then we're going to put a lid on it, which I've washed, and we're going to put it, now I'm probably going to store it in the fridge. Now I don't normally, the top of it didn't get cleaned, did it? I don't normally store it in the fridge, I normally just cure them on the bench. But I'm not going to be home, I'm not going to be able to observe them, I'm not going to be able to take note of temperature or anything. So I think I'm just going to do them in the fridge. So it'll be a week in the fridge, and then after that I will pull them out and I'll decide whether I want to do the oven curing as well, or I could do it in the dehydrator probably. Would be the easiest thing to do it. So yes, so that's the salted egg yolks done. Now I've got all those egg whites that I'll probably just freeze. Might use these new containers that I bought to freeze the egg whites. Easiest way to get them in there, I'm not sure. I probably should have done it like on a per egg basis. Probably would have made my life a bit easier. Looking at how many I filled, I'd say it fit, these things fit just over a white each. Maybe they'd fit an egg each or something. But it'll work for today. I get them in the freezer and I'll use them for something. I don't know what, but I'll use them for something. At least they're saved for a purpose. So now I need to clean up. All right, it's taken me so long to get everything else sorted that I forgot I was doing lemon butter. So it looks pretty set up to me. Now it's not very yellow because of the coconut sugar. Let me grab a spatula. All right, so you can see butter. Now this, when you put it in the fridge, sometimes it does get a bit lumpy. So it's quite nice if you refrigerate it and then put it and then whiz it up again once it's cold and it's nice and smooth and creamy, and then put it back in the jars. Just because as it sets, it's obviously it's cooling in different parts of the whole, and sometimes it has a few lumps in it, but that is the coconut sugar lemon butter. Definitely a different color because of the coconut sugar, but super tasty. Do you know what I might? The rolls were finished. I forgot about them a little bit, so some are a little bit more brown than others, and I quite like them like that. So these are the brioche rolls that I make, and they are just amazingly lovely, and they're quite, this one's quite cooked on the bottom and stuff, so it's going to be really chewy. So do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be really naughty, and I'm going to put a bit of lemon butter on this chewy roll. It is so good. You've got really bright lemony flavour because you've got the coconut oil instead of the butter, and it's sweet but not overly sweet. I don't like it too sweet. I like it to have a hint of sweetness but not be sweet with a bit of lemon. I want lemon with a bit of sweet. So highly recommend, and it worked perfectly in the new TM7 as well. And yes, I will probably put this in jars in the freezer to use later, because I won't have time to use it before I go, and I don't want it to go bad. It will mold in the fridge. You can lemon curd, but there is a significant process to it because you have to get things to a certain temperature before they go into the water, and the water has to maintain a temperature as well, otherwise you curdle everything, and I just don't find it worth it. This sort of thing, if you freeze it and then you let it defrost in the fridge, sometimes you just give it a bit of a whisk and it's perfect. I love making Edna's lemon curd tea cakes, which I use this curd for a lot. So if I freeze it, then I'll be able to do that. Now, I've had a lot of problems with lack of freezer space, but we're getting that new freezer. I don't know where I'm putting it yet, but we're getting that new freezer. I managed to find the one that I saw that was a discount because of the packaging had been dinged, or the side had been dinged or something, for like the 300. So they're about $1,200 full price. They regularly come down to about $1,000 on sale. and the scratch and dent one I saw was $7.77, but when I rang them, they actually don't have any stock. It was false advertising as such. But I did manage to find a different one that was $849, and then they had a 5% off because it was end of financial year, and it's at Jibang, which isn't too bad for me to go and travel to get from Mum's place on Friday. So I am grabbing it, but I'm not sure where I'm putting it. But it will be amazing to have that much extra freezer space and reorganize the current freezer in a way that like all the fruit is in one end of one freezer instead of scattered and stuff. I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, so I'll probably just freeze this because then I can use it whenever I want. But I still have a lot of lemons left, and normally I get Sonnet and Apollo to juice them, but Sonnet's going to be with me. But in this weather, they probably will be fine until I get back. Fingers crossed. All right, we're going to freeze it in these jars, which is fine. So long as your jars are wide mouth jars, the opening is basically the same size as the rest of the jar. And you leave sufficient headspace. Not that curd increases much in freezing. So we've got a good solid amount of headspace, wide mouth jar, and the 6 egg batch is about 3 batches worth. Like, so I call this a batch because this is what I'd use for the lemon curd tea cake. So 2 egg batches, about a jar's worth. So that is done. I'm going to let that cool before I put it in the freezer and then get that in the freezer. Now the jar's finished, so I need to pull them out to cool. And here we go. This is what it looks like done. So still bubbling, still under pressure. Because the chicken was raw, you've got these little bits are mostly just chicken that have happened as it's cooking. But as it settles, it will change how it looks as well. So, and this is what the straight stock looks like. I obviously brought it up nice and slow, no siphoning, no issues. It went for the 90 minutes, as I said, which is unnecessary for stock, but I hate leaving a canner half full, so that's fine. And that's the bigger canner load. So no issues with any of the jars, which is really nice. And I'll grab the other load out now. Now, the last thing for the day is the pasta. Now, I have a pasta roller attachment for my KitchenAid, but it's a generic branded one. I've had it for many years, and I've been having some problems with the fact that I can't get it clean properly after use. And so I decided to give it, you're not supposed to wet them fully, but I decided that I was going to give it a boiling hot water rinse and then dry it off, except that when I gave the boiling hot water rinse, all this gunk came out of it. So then I rinsed it and I did another boiling hot water soak and more gunk came out of it. And I've done it like 4 times and there's still gunk in there. And I'm just not happy with that. I'm actually really frustrated, to be honest. So, because in all this time, every time I'd use it, I'd clean it before I put it away. And then when I put it away, and then when I pulled it out to use it again, I'd use a bit of dough and I'd run it through all the different rollers and pick up any crap that was left behind. But obviously all that crap was still in there, potentially impacting the food. Now I know pasta gets cooked and everything, but it's gross. So because this is lasagna soup, I should be able to just roll this out. It doesn't have to be significantly thin because it's lasagna soup. So I should be able to, this was quite a firm dough that I did, not a sourdough pasta and stuff. I should be able to just manually roll it all out. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. And what I'm going to do is let that roller dry out and we will see what it does when it dries out. And otherwise I may have to replace it. It was just an Amazon branded one. It was like, I don't know, $40 or something at the time, not a KitchenAid brand one. Not that that's the issue with it. I think they all are similar because when I Google how to clean them, most of them say you just, a dry brush and a toothbrush, and I do all that regularly every time I use it. And I run dough through it to try and clean it out, and it was still gross, really gross. So I think I should be able to get it thin enough hand rolled, because we cut it rustically anyway for lasagna soup. It's just in thick and thin strips and stuff. It's not going to be ideal. It's going to be a little bit long-winded, but I think it'll be all right. Now, you know how the bench is an issue for my Thermomix scales. It's also an issue for rolling things out because it has a little bit of a tendency to be concave. So you roll things out and it ends up thicker in the middle, but we will make it work. So, you know, pull a piece. It's not too bad for the purpose we're using it for today. It should be fine. So I'm just gonna cut it into some strips with this because this won't damage my dough mat. As I said, the scent is a little bit thicker than everywhere else, but it's fine. All right, I'm going to get the pot started so it can come up to a boil while I'm doing this. All right, I've got most of it done. I haven't turned the lights on out here yet and it's getting dark. It's 5 to 5. But most of the pasta done. We're in short pieces because we're boiling it in soup, so we don't want too much long length. And then now I put the other 3 litres of stock with a 1.2 kilo serve of bolognese into a pot. It's come to a boil, so all I'm going to do is add this to the pot and let this boil in there. Now, there is stuff I didn't get done today. Always is. It's now, I said, it's 5 to 5. Darryl is not home yet. We have not done all the animals and stuff yet either. There is, because I'm home with only the 3 small boys, which has its pros and cons. So with the pasta, I just like to drop it in piece by piece so it doesn't get stuck together too much. So I just throw it in piece by piece so that it has a chance to get the fat from the soup on it and it doesn't stick. So yes, not much has been done today. I don't think there's any kindling because the boys have been doing schoolwork and basic stuff and I have been tied up getting all this done, and I didn't expect them to be gone this long. So I need to leave here at lunchtime tomorrow, but because Darryl has to go and get the potbelly that I managed to find from Pittsworth tomorrow before I leave, and I need to leave at lunchtime tomorrow so that I can get to Brisbane in daylight because I don't do night driving. So I need to leave here at sort of lunchtime to make sure that I get there because her surgery is at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Now I could leave Thursday morning really early, but it would be really pushing it, so I don't want to. Much better to leave at lunchtime tomorrow than like 5 AM on Thursday morning, so to make sure that if we hit any traffic or anything that we're not late for her surgery. So anyway, I don't know what else. I really wanted to get the lemon chung done because it could sit and macerate while I was gone. But I haven't got there. I also have some chicken mince that I was going to turn into wontons because I've got some wonton papers in the fridge. I might be able to get to that tomorrow morning. We will see. If I can, I will. If not, then it's life. So, but anyway, I'll show you it served up. And other than that, that's probably it for this video. I will take it inside to check, but I think that I will try and get this sorted to be out tomorrow morning before I leave. So